is this?
God of War is a phenomenal game that everyone should play, no question. And if you're watching this video, it's probably safe to say that you're interested in playing it too if you haven't already started. But if you really want to get the most out of its stunning world and its fantastic and definitely not boring combat, then you should really consider playing in Immersive mode.
What are we hunting?
You are hunting deer.
There's an option in the game's settings that lets you toggle the game's HUD between normal and immersive mode, which removes the game's meters, compass, icons, and most of its pop-ups. God of War's HUD is already quite minimal, which is great, but after finishing and playing the latter half of the game in immersive mode, let me tell you, this is the way to experience God of War. The idea of no HUD is always a little daunting for sure, but don't be scared. In this video, I want to assure you that it's totally viable by explaining how you can pass the information you need and explain why the things you're missing out on aren't a big deal. First of all, why do it and what are the benefits of not getting every single little detail of information? Well, on a superficial level, God of War is a very good looking game. Immersive mode makes sure the entirety of your screen can be used to appreciate the beauty of the environments, the character models, and get the full impact of the game's truly impressive camera work with that one long 40-hour Steadicam shot. On a more substantial level, being able to pay full attention to the environment without any distractions will help you with your exploration. You'll pay more attention to the details in the environment and you'll almost be guaranteed to never miss out on a collectible. No alternate paths will go unnoticed and no stray pot or wooden item will go unsmashed, because you're looking so keenly at the world instead of an icon on a compass. But more importantly, immersive mode will make you better at the combat. In action games, it's a common and completely logical tendency to always keep one eye on either your health meter, your enemy's health meter, enemy location indicators, your skill cooldowns, whatever. But that's one eye that's not actually watching the fight. Immersive mode lets you focus completely on using all of your skill to be the best fighter you can be. Hit every parry, dodge every attack, and take advantage of every opening. If you're like me and you know you have a full bar of health, you'll sometimes get a little sloppier because you know Kratos can take a few hits. But why not perform at your absolute best all the damn time? You need to set a good example for Atreus after all. Is that enemy you're fighting a purple enemy who's supposed to be too overpowered for you? Who knows and who cares? If you can beat it, then what does it matter? Immersive mode frees you from self-doubt. Now I do recommend that on your first playthrough you should definitely spend the early hours with the default HUD, just so you can get a basic feel of how combat operates, especially how the stun mechanic works. But by the time you get to the Lake of Nine and the game opens up, you should be good to go with Immersive. There is one thing I've been keeping from you that might make things a little easier. God of War also has a custom HUD option which lets you toggle certain elements on or off. But best of all, it allows you to assign some HUD options to the PS4's touchpad, meaning you can turn everything off, but still take a brief look at anything you want to with a gentle tap of the touchpad. So if you're finding immersive mode hard to get used to at the beginning, give the touchpad stuff a try before going back to normal. Alright, so how do you actually manage the information you need for combat without seeing bars or indicators? Well, God of War has a bunch of in-world cues that make immersive mode accessible and tell you literally everything you need to know. They're all pretty obvious as you'll see, but let's run through them for peace of mind. First of all, if you've been wailing on an enemy with light attacks or your bare fists and see the pulsing red circle around them, it means you can execute your takedown move. Not being able to see how much stun you're dealing to an enemy might seem like a disadvantage, especially against revenants who have a rapid stun recovery. But all you need to know is that if you're looking to stun someone, you need to really focus them and keep up the pressure until you see that red dot. Otherwise, it's not going to happen regardless. If the screen has a glowing red vignette, that means you're low on health. That's a pretty standard thing, but in God of War, Atreus will also tell you as much just in case it wasn't obvious enough. If the screen has a glowing blue vignette, it means you've been affected by frost, and your attack speed will be slowed. You'll also see the blue iciness on Kratos. Poison and shock effects are also pretty obvious, except they're green and yellow. You honestly don't need a little icon in the corner to tell you that you're poisoned, please. You also don't need to use the enemy indicator ring to know when you're being blindsided. Just listen carefully to Atreus because he'll tell you when you're being attacked and from where.
Look out behind you!
You see what I mean? All of this stuff is pretty straightforward and pre-existing, and it's all stuff you'll likely be accustomed to by the time you internalize the combat system. But alright, I'm sure you have a bunch of questions and concerns, such as, how do you know when you need to heal? Obviously, it's a good idea to save green gems for until you really need them. And you know that when Atreus is yelling at you when your screen's turning red, then you probably need to find some health gems pronto. Now remember when I talked about immersive mode giving you way more awareness in combat? I mean, you'll likely be avoiding more hits overall, which means you'll likely have more spare health gems lying around, and as you spend more time at the game, you should organically get an idea of roughly how many blows you can take before hitting the red zone. Health management then becomes more of a gut feeling kind of thing. For example, if I enter a fight and I know that I'm at full health, and then I take 3 or 4 hits from an enemy, I can be pretty sure that grabbing one green gem will bring me back to full health. Once the fight is over, you'll naturally want to pick up everything that's on the battlefield, and that should put you in perfect shape for the next encounter. Measuring cooldowns for your runic weapon and talisman skills, as well as Atreus' abilities, is a little clearer. When an ability comes off cooldown and is ready to use, there'll be a handy audible chime from either the left or right of the screen, where the meters would normally be. Atreus will say something like, "I'm set," or "tell me when his arrows are ready after using them all up. That said, it is good to keep in mind roughly how long the cooldown on your chosen abilities are, which can be anywhere from 30 to 90 seconds, and keep a rough track of when you use them. Now the tricky one, depending on your playstyle, is knowing when Spartan Rage is ready to go. I typically only use Spartan Rage during boss fights or particularly large mobs, but if you like to use it as soon as you can, as much as you can, you might want to use the custom touchpad HUD to periodically check on the meters. Alright, so how about all that sweet loot you're gonna find along your journey? In immersive mode, most of the white highlights you pick up off the ground, along with the stuff you find in chests, coffins, and on the water, won't activate a pop-up. But seriously, don't sweat. It's probably just some hack silver, a small XP boost, or crafting materials. None of these are things you need to worry about immediately. Because let's face it, every time you come upon a weapon store, you're gonna check in and see if you can craft or upgrade any new gear anyway. If you have the prerequisite hack silver and crafting materials, great. And if you don't, well, see you next time. With immersive mode, you'll likely be a lot more aware of hidden paths and pickups along the way, so it's not like you're gonna miss out on a whole mess of stuff that's gonna stop you from upgrading something, because you probably wouldn't have been able to do it anyway. Now, if you find significant items like new runic attacks, uncommon, legendary or epic gear, legendary materials, health apples or mead horns, a big pop-up will come up regardless, because that's stuff that you might find useful immediately and the game knows that. Finally, your compass. God of War's open areas are not so convoluted that you're gonna need to constantly follow an objective marker to get where you need to go. Taking a glance at your world map in the menu, making a note of your orientation and where your next main or side objective might be, and then setting off in that general direction, allowing the natural pathways and your perception of major landmarks to guide you, is usually enough to get you where you need to be. Unfortunately, for those of you who are super into lore, both the loot and lore pop-ups are things that can't be toggled individually in the custom HUD screen, and can't be assigned to the touchpad menu. You're either all in or all out. So you might need to make a decision here based on how badly you want to read the lore immediately, versus seeing pop-ups that tell you you've picked up like 5 hack silver every time you smash a pot. Alright, that's a lot of words and time spent to assure you that yes, playing God of War in immersive mode can be a completely practical and good option. Again, it's something that I implore you to do, because it'll give you a greater appreciation of just how well this game's environments are designed for exploring, how deep and exciting its combat can be, and just how stunning every facet of the game is. I honestly wish I'd done it earlier. So turn on immersive mode in God of War. It's the best way to play.